time is 6:33, and today is Monday, October 23rd, 2017, and I call to order this meeting of the Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustees. Before proceeding with tonight's agenda, I would like to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded through video and audio technology. At this time, I ask that everybody silence or turn off your electrical devices. Thank you very much. Mr. Laredo, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
And do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have all present but one.
Thank you. Dr. Duarte, please begin opening exercises.
President Richard, school board members, Mr. O'Brien, the opening exercises for the October 23rd, 2017 board meeting will be presented by students from Dr. Antonio Banuelos Elementary School. We will begin the opening ceremonies with the prayer led by Ricky Clem. Everyone please rise.
We could pray together, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time when we can all come together as a school district to make important decisions about our district and to recognize all the achievements that happen throughout the school year. We ask that you bless each person here and lay your guiding hand on the board members as we guide the district. In Jesus' name, amen.
The pledges will be led by Araf Nunez and Emma Martinez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. The following students will be performing Obladi Oblada and Let It Be by the Beatles. With us today we have Grethel Carrillo, Trinity Daniels, Helen Leal, Emma Martinez, Mackenzie Moorhead, Arath Nunez, Ariana Rodriguez, Jacqueline Tehevia, Rihanna Weems, and Kendall Wilcox. The students are under the direction of Anissa Lubeck and Principal Renee Meyer.
Nothing has to borrow in the marketplace.
Ms. Lebecki, thank you very much for taking me back to my 8th grade year 50 years ago. Timeless and beautiful music. Thank you. If any of the parents of these singers are here tonight, would you please stand so we could recognize you? Parents. Dr. Duarte? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have more opening. What do you think? What do you want to do first, Dr. Duarte? Recognitions. All right. We will move to item 4 on our agenda, come back to 3. We'll do recognitions and acknowledgments.
Can you get our AP Spanish? That's next. Thank you, Karen. Tonight, we would like to recognize our students who were enrolled in an AP Spanish language course during their 8th grade year in the 2016-17 school year. And these students scored a 3 or better on the exam during the AP exam process. These students that we will be recognizing are from Baytown Junior School and Horace Mann Junior School. Their principals and AP Spanish language teachers are here as well, and we're going to have our principals recognize these students. What I do want to point out is this is a college level course, and our 8th grade students earned college credit before stepping on a high school campus. So that is pretty impressive for our students. So we have Matt Bollinger, principal at Baytown Junior School.
Thank you, Dr. Duarte. So like Dr. Duarte said, we are truly excited to honor our former Goslins tonight and also our former Gators. It's incredible that these students not only earned high school credit during their 8th grade year, but also they earned college credit. At Baytown Junior, we had 16 students score a 3 or higher on the AP Spanish exam. And that's usually considered proficient for getting college credit. So we're excited to see so many of our students come in with college credit entering their high school year. So at this time, we're going to recognize some of our students who are here tonight, starting with Jessica Aguilar. And Jessica could not make it tonight. Next, we have Alejandra Gonzalez. Salmi Gonzalez. Evelyn Hymas. Yvette Mendoza. Daniela Monsiveus. Alexa Rodriguez. Doanny Toscan Madrigal. And Frida Valdez. I would also like to recognize our AP Spanish teacher. She does an excellent job preparing our students for the AP Spanish exam, and that is Mrs. Julita Rincon. And at this time, if there are any family members present from Baytown Junior, please rise at this time, and we'd like to recognize you as well.
Next we have Erica Tran, our principal for Horace Mann Junior School.
Good evening, everyone. As Mr. Bollinger said, we are very excited and very proud of our students. We had 13 students score 3 and above, which is proficient for college credit. Unfortunately, we couldn't have all our kiddos here tonight, but we do want to recognize the ones that are here. I'm so very proud to announce Yamilet Chavez. Next we have Yadira Magaña. Next we have Debony Piedra Rocha. Next we have Jesus Sendejas. And of course, I want to introduce our wonderful AP Spanish teacher, Miss Mary Chen. Does a wonderful job with our Gators. I have our counselor here who's over the AP's 8th grade AP Spanish is Miss Alexis Trotty. I just want to make sure we recognize her. She's a lot of work.
And Dr. Duarte, if I may for a second, I just want to say a sincere thank you to Ms. Chen and for Ms. Rincon. Ms. Rincon has been doing this program for 3 years. And I really do believe, especially because a lot of the kids, this is a seed for them, you know, especially at 8th grade, to have the opportunity to have teachers that are dedicated to do that for our kids, to put the seed in so they can go to college and have already a little step ahead. I think it's real important. And I also like to thank Dr. Duarte for introducing us to this program. So a big thank you to you and Ms. Chen and Ms. Rincon.
Next, we have students from GCM, Impact, Robert E. Lee, and Rossa Sterling High School who recently participated in the 2016-2017 NHI Summer Institutes. The Great Debate for High School Freshmen, the Lorenzo de Zavala for high school sophomores and juniors, or the Collegiate World Series for high school seniors. These institutes engage students in learning experiences that inspire their imagination, develop their repertoire of skills and competencies, broaden their cultural knowledge, and make community leadership a lifelong learning commitment, where leadership and community social entrepreneurship are used as transformational learning experiences that compel young people to envision themselves as having important roles to play as leaders and that demand academic excellence and commitment to personal development. For the 2016-2017 school year, Goose Creek had 12 students who received recognition as an NHI Celebración qualifier. We will be recognizing these students and their family members this evening. For the Texas Ambassador Great Debate 2016-2017 ninth grade qualifiers were Gabby Cantu from Goose Creek Memorial, Hector Alvarez from Impact Early College High School, Kelly Martinez from Impact Early College High School, Antonia Loredo from Lee High School, the Colorado LDZ 2016-2017 10th grade qualifiers included Christopher Serino from Goose Creek Memorial, Kiana Lewis from Impact Early College High School, Ty Young from Impact Early College High School, Mariana Rodriguez from Lee High School, Alejandro Cantu, Lee High School, and Priscilla Garcia from Sterling High School. Again, congratulations to all of our students for their accomplishments. Let's give all of these students another round of applause. And if you are a parent or family member of one of these students, please stand so that we may recognize you as well. Each year, the Texas Education Agency awards academic achievement designations to campuses for outstanding performance in the following areas: academic achievement in reading English language arts, in mathematics, in science, in social studies, top 25% for student progress, top 25% for closing the performance gaps, and post-secondary readiness. For the 2016-17 school year, Goose Creek had 14 campuses earn a total of 37 state distinctions. Tonight, we want to recognize those campuses for their outstanding performance. We will be having the principal, assistant principal, and staff coming up as we call each campus.
I know, right? Good evening, President Richard, school board members. Our first school for distinction is Lamar Elementary School, which earned a perfect 6 out of 6 of the state distinctions. All right, for our second school tonight is David Crockett Elementary School, which also earned a perfect 6 out of 6 state distinctions. All right, our third school for tonight is Carver Elementary School, which earned 4 state distinctions.
How many distinctions total? 6, 12. It was 30, 20, 23, 26.
We're on 3 of 14.
Nah, no, we'll be real high. 34? State distinctions.
All right, our fourth school for tonight is Robert E. Lee High School, earning 4 state distinctions.
Number 2. Number 2. Rudy, get up front. Really? Bibbers. That guy can run like a monkey. Who is he? What is he? What's the dude? AP Lee. No, I never knew he was a special ed teacher, but he looks like a runner. You can tell he's probably the heaviest I've seen. Really? He used to run. Just go.
Our fifth school for tonight is Stephen F. Austin Elementary School, earning 3 state distinctions. Our sixth school for tonight is Ross S. Sterling High School, earning 3 state distinctions. All right, our seventh school for tonight is Victoria Walker Elementary School, earning 2 state distinctions.
Good thing with somebody picking up, got it. Yeah. How many? They got 2? Is that what it was? 2? Just to find out. Oh yeah, she's there. Yep, there she is. Yeah, 2.
Our eighth school for tonight is Lamar Elementary, earning 2 state distinctions. Our next school tonight is Jacinto Elementary School, earning 1 state distinction. Our next school is Harlem Elementary, earning 1 state distinction. Our next school is Asheville Smith Elementary, earning 1 state distinction. Our next school is Goose Creek Memorial, earning 2 state distinctions. Our next school is Cedar Bayou Junior High, earning 1 state distinction. Our last school is Impact Early College High School, earning 1 state distinction.
Attendance is an important factor for our district, not only for funding from the state, but for the benefit of students to receive instruction. Our top 3 elementary campuses for the first 6 weeks, in first place was Victoria Walker Elementary, having 97.93%. Representing Victoria Walker are Principal Monica Juarez and students McKenna Hamrick in kinder, Jesus Ballesteros in first, Nicholas Moreno in third, Jalia Grant in fourth, and Nayelia Moreno in fifth. Nayeli. Our elementary in second place is Stephen F. Austin Elementary with a 97.75% attendance. And here from Austin, we have Principal Michelle Duhan and staff members Terry Cooper, Laura Dyer, and Jackie Brown. Lots of pictures. And our third place elementary school is Dr. Antonio Banuelos Elementary with 97.71%. And representing that campus is Principal Renee Meyer, students Valeria Reyna, Joshua Reyna, Olivia Galvan, and Rebecca Gilmore. Our top junior school is George H. Gentry Junior School with 97.43% attendance. And with us today from Gentry is Principal Kathy Holland and students Kara Araby, 6th grader, Edward Villarreal, 6th grader, Sydney Dado, 7th grade, Bryce Harris, 7th grade, and Cameron Chin, 8th grade. Our top high school for the first 6 weeks is Robert E. Lee High School with 95.13%. And we have with us from Lee High School our principal, Joe Farnsworth, our Dean of Instruction, Kim Fox, our Student Body President, Annalise Lopez, and our Student Body Vice President, Clarissa Garza. We also have 3 alternative campuses that have district goals, and they met those for the first 6 weeks. We have Impact Early College High School with a 98.28 attendance percentage, and representing Impact, our principal, Laura Reyes. Students, Avinash Rambaran, 9th grader, Grace Garcia, 10th grade, Ashley Prescott, and Chloe Simmons, 11th graders. We're also recognizing Peter E. Highland Center, who had 85.54% attendance. From Peter E. Highland, we have Principal Michelle Verdun and students Essence Davis, Gwyneth Blakely, and Jorge Cavarrubias. And lastly, we have Point Alternative Center, who had an 81.81% attendance, and with us today is our principal, Tricia Times. We congratulate these campuses and their students for their effort to strive for good attendance.
Thank you to everybody who was here tonight for our recognitions. Next on the agenda is a public hearing regarding optional flexible school day program for the Peter E. Highland Center, Impact Early College High School, and Stuart Career Tech Early College High School. The hearing will be led by Dr. Duarte.
So when we apply for the optional flexible school day program, our students must meet one of the following criteria to participate. They have to be at risk of dropping out of school, attending a school implementing an approved innovative campus plan, an approved early college high school program, or as a result of attendance requirements will be denied credit from one or more classes in which the student has been enrolled. Additionally, the student, if less than 18 years of age, the student's parent or person standing in parental relation to the student have to agree in writing to the student's participation. Tonight we're holding our public hearing, and this is a requirement of the application. So before applying to operate as an optional flexible school day program under the Texas Education Code, we have to give our public an opportunity to provide any feedback. The campuses that will be participating this year are Peter E. Highland Center We have Impact Early College High School, and we've just started our freshman cohort at Stuart Career Tech Early College High School. There are program requirements that we must follow. We have to administer all of the mandatory assessment instruments. All of our instructional materials and facilities must be comparable to our other campuses. Students are not to be isolated from other academic and vocational programs. They have to have access to counselors. We have to provide knowledgeable, highly qualified instructors, and our students are not penalized in accordance with the 90% rule, and we require students to attend regularly scheduled instruction. At this point, we'd like to open it up if we have any comments from the public.
If anyone in the audience would like to address the board regarding this topic, would you please come to the speaker stand? Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Duarte. We will now close this public hearing. The next item on the agenda is citizens' participation. This is the time that the board will hear any public concerns or public comments from those that have signed up to address the board. Before hearing such matters, I would remind each speaker who has signed up that you are limited in your presentation to 5 minutes and that you should not identify any teachers, administrators, staff, or students by name in addressing your concerns or comments. Pursuant to state law and board policy BE legal, the board cannot consider or take action on your concerns at this meeting unless it pertains to an item on the posted agenda for this meeting. Any deliberation or decision on an item that is not posted for consideration at this meeting shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda of a future meeting. Tonight we have 5 speakers who have signed up to address the board. Our timekeeper will be Mr. Laredo. Our first speaker is Mr. Jordan Garrison. Okay. Jordan, Mr. Laredo will give you a 1-minute warning when you have 1 minute left.
Okay, thank you. As mentioned, my name is Jordan Garrison, and I am a sophomore at Ross S. Sterling High School. I am speaking today about the earrings and the nose piercing and the facial hair dress code change. I want to share a little story real quick. My 6th grade teacher told me one day, a day where I thought that I couldn't achieve the higher things in life because I thought that I wasn't capable of doing that. And she told me to have a vision, and when you have that vision, to demand it. So I am standing here today appealing for the change and equality that this district needs. Look at me. Does it really look like I'm affiliated with the gang? If my sister is able to have a 3-inch earring in her ear and not have any cause trouble about it, and nobody says it's a distraction, what does it matter if I'm not able to? Or if I'm able to have an earring, what does anybody really say anything about it? Nobody has ever said that there has been an instance where a student got in trouble because, I mean, not really in trouble, but they were too distracted to learn what the teacher was teaching. If anything, they say it looks good, but then goes right back to what they were doing. It's the 21st century, it's not distracting, and it's about time we get similar ground here. So let us compromise here, and I wear earrings because they simply make me look better. Not for anybody else, it's for my self-appreciation and for my appearance. And I don't wear them because I want to symbolize something, and if I'm symbolizing anything, it's just that I was able to achieve change in this district, and that I am not just someone who likes earrings. I am Jordan Garrison that just so happens to like earrings. The new ages and stereotypes are old. I mean, these are the new stages, and stereotypes are old and outdated just like this district. Old dress code, sorry. By changing this, no one loses. There's nothing preventing y'all from changing it. And as for the facial hair, my preference, I like facial hair, and it's more of my body, and I don't complain about anybody else's facial hair, and that why criticize us for it? And it's time for change, and time for equality for everyone, and time for a student's vision to be truly heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Our next speaker is Nicholas Herrera.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Herrera, and I attend Ross at Sterling. I will be talking about a topic that has been bouncing around Baytown for a while, and we've already had meetings, but it's never enough. I want to state that I am for a later start time. Many have stated that we should put our money else, as in teachers and our facilities, and I do agree these two problems are very beneficial and important, but there is a solution to this problem. Although many people don't want to start time that is later in the morning, it could be the solution our school district needs. We can all agree that a later start times help decrease sleep deprivation, which studies do prove. Sleep deprivation is an epidemic nationally, and to cause change, we need to start locally. But there are many things that can be improved when sleep deprivation is decreasing. When a school starts later, many students start to attend more. If we can increase our attendance to 1 to 5%, if we can increase our attendance to 1 to 5%, I mean, it might not seem like it's a very big difference, but it's very beneficial, and here's why. Our school district can get hundreds of thousands of dollars from the state from just increasing our attendance just by 1%. Imagine if we were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5%. It's going to bring a lot of money to our district, which could be good in many cases. Another factor is the performance in school will increase. We also get funding from the state from how well we do in school. If we're on the top, we get rewarded, and that's the goal, to have the best education as possible. Health is also improved when students are able to sleep more. When the health of the students improve, then so do the attendance and performance. So what I'm getting at is that a higher attendance and better performance in school can lead to more money to spend on our hardworking teachers and our campuses, which can all be achieved by more sleep, which is why I think a later start time is necessary. However, it's not just the students that can be positively impacted. The teachers will also get more sleep. This will lead to them being healthier and more efficient teachers, which can improve our academics. These are things that are greatly beneficial from a later start time. But on the other hand, we do need to spread awareness. Teen sleep is different than child sleep and adult sleep. Teens are more affected by depression and suicidal thoughts. Loss of sleep does contribute to depression and suicidal thoughts. We should be aiming to decrease these things around our campuses. A later start time can help to depreciate the rate of students who are depressed and have suicidal thoughts. And I know the change is not a popular one, but the change is a right one. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Our next speaker is Daniel, is it Guerrero? Okay.
Hello, my name is Daniel Guerrero, and I am a junior at Sterling High School, and I'm here to give my opinion on some aspects of our current dress code. I believe that the facial hair policy, which was foolishly imposed on our district many years ago, is causing greater disadvantages than it is advantages. For example, students on a day-to-day basis are being sent to their grade level offices, losing limited instruction time for facial hair. Now, let me ask, does that sound justified to you? Only because students maybe didn't have time to shave, didn't have the resources to purchase a razor, or countless amount of possibilities, does that mean that they should be losing their instruction time and causing them to lose motivation because now they are mad because they were forced to shave with a dull razor and have to walk around with a red face all day, not only affecting them, but affecting a percentage in the overall scores within our school and our district? Now, instead of having students lose instruction time, amend the policy instead of negatively impacting our students and our district, because we are here to make our district better. Now, as the piercings for males go, I believe that any male should be allowed to express themselves in any way which they want. And if a piercing in the ear is the way to do it, then so be it. In this particular instance, it is scientifically proven that when the individuals dress better, they excel in anything they may be pursuing at that moment. So if a simple use of an accessory will allow the student to excel in their academics, why not allow them to wear a simple accessory for the better of them? Now, of course, we ultimately must leave the final decision to our board, so we will leave it to y'all. Will y'all limit our students from excelling in their academics, or just simply amend our current policy to adjust to a changing society?
Thank you, Dana. Our next speaker is Goose Herrera.
Hello, my name is Gage Herrera, and I attend Sterling High School. I'd like to address the consideration for amending the piercings and facial hair codes, and I'd like to start off with the aspect of the piercings, since this pertains more towards males than anything. The obvious and most common thing brought up when it comes to piercings, specifically ear piercings, is a very clear double standard held against males. The reason for this rule, established all those years ago, is somewhat outdated, and not really many people know why exactly that was established. If it was possibly because it was gang related, please, I would like you to point out a reason to me on why earrings would be gang related, whenever you can very subtly see them, and it's nothing but a way for any other person to express themselves. Right here. It is obvious that girls do the exact same thing whenever they're using their earrings, when it's either with the hoops or the long earrings. And if it's something as subtle as a little diamond that a male has in his ear, why not let them have it whenever it gives them that little boost that they may need in whatever type of day they're having. Now, in the terms of the facial hair, this rule should also be amended, since the only problem with facial hair that I could see is the administrators not being able to identify a student from a staff. That's the reason we are strictly held to having our ID badges on, and at least at Sterling, I know they're very discernible from the staff ID badges. Now in the classroom, if it is distracting, the facial hair is on your face. So whenever you're facing the teacher, it is not going to be distracting anyone behind you, beside you, because everyone should be looking at the teacher. Now if a student happens to be turned around, that student is already distracting the other student, or they're off task in general. So it is not the facial hair that is distracting them, it is the fact that they chose to distract another student or distract themselves. Thank you.
Our final speaker tonight is Robin Cox.
Superintendent O'Brien and Board of Trustees, thank you for this time to speak tonight. My name is Robin Cox. I am Business Development Manager at C&G for America, based in Katy, Texas. I am here tonight to make you aware of the Volkswagen VW Emission Settlement Fund. Texas' share of these funds will be over $200 million. The state of Texas will be deciding in less than 45 days how to distribute these funds. Many states are designating their share of the settlement funds to cleaner burning school buses. As you may be aware, CNG, which is compressed natural gas, is being widely used throughout the country as an economical, quiet, clean burning fuel for school buses. At CNG for America, we will be advocating to distribute the majority of the funds to clean school buses because of the fact that these buses will be in your neighborhoods. We also believe that the Houston-Galveston area will get a greater percentage of these funds because we are in the largest non-attainment area of the state. In the handout packet I have provided, you will find information regarding the VW settlement and additional funding information via the Texas Emissions Reduction Program. Also a diagram and pictures of our mobile transport system that can deliver the CNG directly to your transport centers. We encourage you to consider driving these clean burning, quiet CNG buses that utilize natural gas from Texas through your neighborhoods, and let Volkswagen pay for a large percentage of it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. This completes our citizens' participation portion of our agenda. We will now move to agenda item number 6, approval of minutes, October 9, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Woods, a second from Ms. Laredo to approve the minutes of the October 9, 2017 regular board meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All in favor of approval, please raise your right hand. Any against? Any abstentions? We have 4 in the affirmative, 2 abstentions, 1 absent. Motion carries. Next, we have discussion items, Superintendent's Reports. Mr. O'Brien.
For our superintendent's report this evening, we have 2. The first one will be presented by Dr. Price and his team. I believe Leanna Dixon, our treasurer, will be joining him. Ms. Grimes may be assisting. They'll be presenting this evening on Hurricane Harvey damages and remediation report. I don't know if Wally Baslow is here to assist as well.
Good evening, board members. Mr. Price, would you turn your microphone on, please? Oh, it got turned on all right. All right. Good evening.
We're going to start off about Hurricane Harvey. Dion, would you start us off?
Good evening, Board President, trustees, Superintendent O'Brien, and guests. This presentation provides an update of Hurricane Harvey related damages and the remediation process.
We're going to show a short clip of some of the damage that happened here in Baytown and in the area mainly on Baker Road pertaining to our TMS Technology Center, which is the hub or the brains of our district. Some of you are familiar with the water levels that we had on Baker Street going down to TMS Center. You can see some of the vehicles over here, the white vans and GCCISD vehicles that were damaged. We had a total of 7 vehicles. This is inside TMS Center. I was trying to make them guys trying to get stuff up off the floor.
This is actually the server room where all the equipment that operates and runs the computers throughout the district and the district different systems.
The knock.
The knock room.
That's Matt's baby right there. You can see the waters in there.
When was this video taken?
August 27th and 28th.
Right after this.
Right after this one.
This is the extra storage. These are computers and laptops out there that are stored back in the back. Those bins hold a lot of the iPads. The ones on the bottom we are still evaluating to see if they've been damaged or ruined. And we have a company in that are happy to do that assessment on those. All of the equipment has been moved out in TMS new location for right now. All right, the campuses and facilities that were damaged, of course, was TMS, and it was a total loss. We had Ross at Sterling. We had a wing in there, the vocational wing, and the boys' gym and auditorium. Robbie Lee had gym damage in our TC area. We had roof leaks across the district. We've been doing some more investigation and evaluations. We have a company in now that's doing some, and we're finding that a lot of the roof damage, some of it is pertaining to Harvey, but we're finding that some of it is a lot of wear and tear, so some of that may just come out of M&O.
This also happens during your evaluation when you're a teacher.
Okay, the flooded vehicles, as I said, we saw some of the flooded vehicles there where there were 7 affected from TMS, 4 were total loss. 3 were repaired the first time. Once we got them back, they were still not functioning correctly, so we sent them back to the shops to be repaired, and we'll pick those up this week to see if they're going to be functioning to our standards. We had one vehicle at FMC that was damaged, and it has been repaired and working good. Food spoilage, miscellaneous furniture, equipment across the district, there were some things that were lost. All right.
The process of recovery involves many steps, which are outlined here. The preliminary damage assessment has been completed, and the insurance adjusters have inspected the damages. Currently, the TMS building and the portions of RSS are having debris removed. The next steps will be to develop a scope of project repairs, including any hazard mitigation work, and finally the reconstruction work will take place. Categories of work are outlined by FEMA, and we are currently in the first 6 months of the emergency work.
We started I got the guys out right after the hurricane had hit. We got our labor force out to do inspections and emergency remediation. We had to see what was actually damaged and assess what we needed to do to make sure that we were going to be either starting on time or as close to on time as possible. We had to then go ahead and contract with people who could do system evaluations, demolition, remediation, and repair. We had to prioritize everything into 3 different categories: urgent, high, and medium priorities. Emergency remediation and flooded facilities was the urgent, vehicle damages were high, and roof leaks and related repairs were the medium priority.
Can I ask a question right here real quick?
You sure can.
Why are roof leaks a little less of a priority than vehicle damages?
Well, a lot of times if we don't have our vehicles running, we can't get to those locations to repair the roof, so to do some repair.
Okay. So let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Why are roof leaks a medium priority at the bottom of the list? Because I would think that those could lead to a whole lot more issues if not placed at a higher priority.
And those that
I know
were
we're having an issue at
those that
Highland
were major
Elementary for that, and we've had issues on other campuses in the past that wind up costing us more and more and more money in damages if not reprioritized. So, are the roof leaks that we're talking about?
they weren't major. Now, if they were major, then they were one of the things that were on top. We didn't have any that were just major. So,
well, I know at Highland Elementary there's a 3rd grade class that hasn't been in their classroom since school started because of roof leaking that ruined not only the bookshelves and the books in the classroom, but also the Promethean board equipment, and they've been in the science lab since they've been in school.
Right. We got those repaired. We got that repaired, but we're dealing with the after effects of that: the smell, the odor, the mold issue. All of those are the things that we're dealing with now while the kids are not in the classroom.
Right.
We've had our air quality tests done. We're going to share that with the faculty and staff tomorrow through a faculty meeting with Mr. Villanueva. So we have addressed those issues and dealt with those. Once the leak was there, we addressed it, got it taken care of. Now, as the
issues like that, of course, those we can claim on insurance, and FEMA will address those. Do they address any of the items that were lost in the classrooms because of that?
Some of it yes, and some of it no. It depends on the deductible that we have, and that's the tricky part. FEMA sounds good. Mark, you can come up. FEMA sounds good, but all the time FEMA just doesn't pop in because we have a deductible that has to be met.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to that. They were going to get to this in a little bit, I think, but the roof leaks, what we're finding out, they were on the brush today, and what we're finding out is a lot of the leaks and the problems are more just aging, regular aging and signs of wear and tear, not necessarily related to the storm. And those issues are more in the medium priority. really just a sign of aging, not so much related to the storm. So, you know, they're going to get to this in a bit about the cost, and we had some preliminary estimates that we believe now are way overstated because we're finding out. That's why we kind of downgraded that to medium. We've taken care of the immediate threat, and now we're on to just more signs of wear and tear that we're dealing with.
Well, I can imagine that 40 some odd inches of rain exacerbated any roof leaks that were already there.
Sure.
But that in mind, we've seen time and time again when we've had to replace the same gym floor over and over again because aging or just little roof leaks here, you know, over time. I'd keep a really close eye on that.
We have a consultant that has helped us with a roofing plan, and this plan was updated. I don't remember the year, Molly, maybe 2012. The roof plan maybe last was updated 2012. It's been several years back. What had happened? What happened though is that lack of funding to be able to do the maintenance and the required necessary scheduled maintenance on the roofs is just, you know, ended up, some of them have been put off, and now the extent of the aging is just, you know, crept up. So this is what we're doing, is getting the whole plan updated by the roof consultant, and that takes some time. And they've been working on it, but we have a lot of buildings and a lot of roofs and a lot of issues to look at. So it's just a time factor that's kind of forced it to a medium. It's taken us time to assess all the damages and to get a complete estimate together.
We want to be proactive, not reactive.
And that's why we hit them at the very beginning. That's why we brought our people on board to go find out what needed immediate attention. We did those, got those leaks repaired and fixed, started removing those ceiling tiles. As we go to the next slide. That middle section, that's where we start removing all the ceiling tiles after the roofs have been replaced, repaired, piled them all up at the service center for removal and disposal. If you look at the first picture, that's Cedar Junior School. That's where one of the major roof situations were. We've gotten that sealed, but we still have some stuff to do on the inside of the building to make it look presentable. Over at Highland Elementary, the one you were speaking of, that's one of the rooms there that had a leak. The leak was repaired, but we still have some of the inside that we pulling the tile out, and we still got to do some more remediation there. So we are working on those things, and that's why they were downgraded to immediate. And I shouldn't say downgrade. That's why they were listed as immediate. If we look at the TMS center that we were looking at earlier, the technology center, that's when the building has been gutted. It has been, we're in the process of debris removal and remediation. I know that is a familiar sight because so many people of our residents here in the city of Baytown and our surrounding communities have their homes in this shape right here. Okay. If you look on the left-hand side here, this is Ross at Sterling. On the left picture, we have a wall that has mold in it. That is a vinyl covering that's on the walls. The vinyl covering can hide or make it more difficult to see the mold. So we're going to remember that in our future projects, because an open sheetrock wall, we would see it immediately and could start the remediation process. With the tile, we had to do a search and find it and then start the remediation process. If you look at the upper right-hand picture, that is the health lab at Sterling. Below is how the tile looked. The tile has been removed and ready for replacement and repairs.
This slide provides insurance coverage information and estimated costs for the loss. These figures are the worst case scenario. Note the district's flood insurance for the technology facility is purchased directly from FEMA due to prior building flooding. The deductible is $5,000 for each of the building and the content, with a coverage limit of $500,000 each. While other policies are purchased through the Wright National Flood Insurance Company and have a deductible of $1,250 for facility or building and contents, with a limit of $500,000 each. Again, as they noted, the roofs were being inspected today, and we still don't have a firm estimate on the damage cost. of those repairs. However, it has been noted that most of the issues on those roofs are from aging and not storm-related damage. And so the $2.5 million estimate on the roof leak is overstated, along with the TMS cost estimate of the $3.2 million.
Could we ask a question here?
Yes.
Did we hear correctly that our insurance on TMS was only $500,000 for a building that had $3 million in equipment in it?
Yes, the coverage loss, the coverage damage is $500,000. On the insurance and the for building and $500,000 for contents. Yes. That's $1 million total, and then the rest would have to come through the FEMA claims.
And the reason for those limitations was because there's prior claims on that building.
Yes, there was a prior flood to that facility. On this slide here, these are some of the cost estimates that we have so far, with the exception of the forced labor that was paid for the time period work during the school closure of August 28th through September 6th. We had about $186,000 of non-exempt payroll that was paid out. That's not included here. Note that this does not include the build-out of the TMS building until a decision is made by the board on the reconstruction plan and design of the facility. We will not be reimbursed, so that cost is not included in there. And we will meet with FEMA on Wednesday, and we're sure that a time frame limitation will be set at that date.
Any other questions at this time?
Can you put that last slide back up? Sorry.
Do we anticipate having the monies that we spent on our employees' staff to come in to be eligible for reimbursement from FEMA?
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
My understanding, just listening to these guys as they work, is that FEMA is very appreciative when we give them cost estimates and receipts, even for something that was replaced in the last few years, that they've worked really well with us in aligning costs associated with repairs and damages.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Our next superintendent's report will be on the quarterly instructional initiatives overview. I've asked Dr. Duarte to put before the Board of Trustees about once a quarter an initiative that we're attempting to improve instruction for our students. And I believe she has a team of teachers that will come up and join her in that presentation.
What we'd like to do is be able to present to the board quarterly some of the initiatives that we have going on in the district so that you are fully aware of really what we're doing. So we have asked two of our campuses. We've got Lee High School teachers here, and we've got Crockett Elementary teachers here. And they're going to present on the first initiative that they've been doing on their campuses. So they will be talking about professional learning communities. So you guys come on up and introduce yourselves. And come on, Crockett. Grab a chair. Good evening. My name is Allison Higdon, and until, is that too loud?
You're good.
I talk loud. Until this year, I was the science content specialist at Lee High School, and I also taught biology. Now I'm the college and career counselor, and we're here to talk to you guys a little bit about PLCs on our campus.
My name is Brian Walenta. I teach U.S. History at Robert E. Lee High School, and I'm the level leader for U.S. History.
My name is Juan Mundo. I teach math and science third grade GATE. I'm the team leader for third grade as well.
I'm Wendy Thompson. I teach 4th grade math and science.
Amy Moser, 2nd grade, Gate.
Okay. I think we're going to break it down and talk to you guys a little bit about the high school first, and then we'll move to the elementary school. Okay, so PLCs, or professional learning communities, focus on 4 essential questions. Every day, our teachers are allotted, our EOC teachers are allotted a specific time where they meet together. It's not a conference period. It's called a teaming period or PLC period, and that is not where they make copies. They don't do any kind of grading or work on their own at that point. It's specifically a time that's set aside for the PLC questions and answers and teaming. So we always ask the 4 questions. The first one is, what do we want our students to learn? How will we know if they have learned it? And how will we respond when a student experiences difficulty? And finally, how will we respond when a student already knows something? So these are the 4 questions that we focus on every single PLC. It's really a wonderful time. Our district, we're fortunate in this district to get lots of professional development and lots of speakers come in. We have all kinds of programs to learn, but I truly believe that the PLC is the best professional development that we have because it allows teachers to sit down with one another and learn from each other. And that's huge. Every teacher is an expert in some area, and this is built in time every single day where we get to sit and visit with our teachers and ask them how they're doing in their classes. We get to look at data and see numbers so we can see which teachers are on top and which teachers are in the middle, which teachers are struggling, and we are able to adjust our instruction based on that data and work together in that sense.
Allison, how do you handle when a teacher may have low scores versus a teacher who has high scores? When you're discussing it openly in a PLC, how do you handle that?
Well, the key word there is openly. On our campus, we're very transparent. We have names and numbers. We talk about them. So every teacher knows how every other teacher has done. And that's built a sense of team where we can say, hey, come into my class. Let me show you what I'm doing or what I did for these specific TEKs or subjects. There's a reason that my score is like this or your score is like that. And we actually work together. They'll come in and look at our lesson plans, or they'll even come in and watch our instruction so that they see firsthand what we're doing when we talk about the differences. And that actually grows our teachers. We're working as a team to grow each other. It's very powerful.
What are PLCs? It is a time period of which we can sit down and collaborate professionally with each other to reiterate. When we look at each other's scores, it's not just who's passing, it's who is doing better with African Americans, who is doing better with SPED, who's doing better with LEP, so that we can learn from each other a way to help those students in our classroom. So it is, and it's a safe environment, and so there's no professional infighting. It's how can we do better for our students. And so when we do that, when we sit down, especially in U.S. history, we work collaboratively to put together lessons. We look at the TEKs, we dissect them. We work at how and what type of different assessments we're going to use. How are we going to teach them? How did we do last year versus this year? And then after we give those common formative assessment, then we look back and see, okay, how did our students do? And that's when it really does take place of, okay, you did better with LEP students. How can I do better? You did better with special ed. What can I do to help out? And it is really a time period in which we can all grow.
So the people that are present, like I said, it's daily. It's a lot of time. There can be teachers. Our co-teachers are there together, special education teachers, our ELL teachers. There can be administrators, counselors, and anybody else that is working with that group of students. The reason we do this is to plan so that we're all on the same page and each one of our teachers knows what they need to address, and we can ensure that that instruction is being delivered. It builds that leadership that we talked about and growing our teachers firsthand. We are able to create formative assessments that are common so that we can see across the board how our students are doing. That allows it to no longer be his students and my students, but our students. That's that collaboration piece. We use that time to target students. We can look at our subpopulation and we can
plan specific interventions for different subpopulations. And it's really, before PLC time, there was no, teachers are busy. And this allows us a piece of the day, every day, to work as a team and to make sure that nobody is falling behind on our team.
So we compared our scores over the past 4 years, looking at ELA, Algebra 1, Biology, U.S. History, and ELA 2. And as you can see, we've had strides. We've made leaps and bounds. Some of ours are in the 90s. U.S. History has been up in the high 80s and 90s over the past years. Our ELAs are going up. But really look at our advanced scores. That's where you start to see what PLC can really do of us working together. The growth in the advanced scores at Robert E. Lee High School have been phenomenal over the past few years.
Yeah, the advanced scores, that is one of the interventions that we've been able to look at during our PLCs. Instead of just looking at our curriculum and what's being taught, we've been able to isolate how are our kids, with that question, what do we do when they already know? We've been able to focus on that question and really get the results in that way. So at Lee, we've had tremendous success, and it's really changed not just our data, but the culture of our teams. And I say teams because that's what we are now. We work together. We earned 4 distinctions. We have the STEM Academy, and we, again, are an Apple Distinguished School. And that's directly, I really do contribute that to that time every day where we can sit and know our teachers and know what's going on in the classrooms.
And today, I do have a prepared statement because I wanted to make sure that you understood how we feel. And so I just wanted to say this. I've been a teacher at Robert E. Lee High School for 16 years. I sit before you here tonight with 31 years of educational experience at the intermediate school, high school, college, and a former administrator. However, I believe the most important, powerful educational tool that I've ever experienced in that 31 years is PLC. The day of this closed classroom door and teaching is over and has been dead for many years. However, teachers were not really asked to collaborate with each other that we do with PLC. Since we now use PLC as a true model for collaboration and planning, our ability to help our students achieve has grown by leaps and bounds. It is a way of systematically looking at and planning, review of curriculum standards, and assessment to not only help our students pass STAR, but to achieve the advanced ratings. Since Lee has been using the PLC model, teachers have the ability to collaborate with each other, the ability to train new teachers, the ability to foster and grow educational leaders among our own teachers. As one of my teachers in U.S. History wrote, I was nervous about joining the U.S. History team a year ago. Our team PLC time has alleviated any concerns that I might have had. Our team shares materials, dissects our critiques, plans our lesson as a team. PLC has given us the best opportunity for student success. PLC is a way of collectively bringing together teachers, co-teachers, special education support, counselors, and administrators to plan for our students. Without the PLC time, we would not be achieving at the level we are today. I firmly believe this, that Robert E. Lee High School is the flagship of our district and the best kept secret in Baytown. I'm here to support the continued use and time of PLCs within Goose Creek and ask that you continue to help our teachers grow while using PLCs. I appreciate it and thank you very much.
Okay, at Crockett on the elementary level, the PLC process runs very much the same as the high school process. We collaborate together, we analyze the data, and then we use what we analyze to drive our instruction, and we do collaborate with each other. So as we analyze the data and we look at everyone's scores, you know, we through the process we learn that you have to get naked with the data. That's what the founder says, and so you have to be vulnerable. Everyone looks at everyone's data, no one's embarrassed, and everyone sees what everyone did, and then we decide We split up the kids for AI time. So if she did a better job at main idea than I did, then I'm going to send my kids that are struggling with main idea to her. Or I'm going to collaborate with her and I'm going to say, how did you teach it? You did a better job of teaching it than I did, so that I can bring it back to my classroom and teach it the way it was more effective. And so that's the way it runs at Crockett. And then we have, you know, our Michelle James said, you have to get over yourself. And so we did that, and we moved on. And we learned the same as they did, that it's not my kids, it's not her kids, it's not your kids, they're our kids, and we're all responsible for all their learning. And so through PLC time, we have that ability to each take each other's kids, and we focus on the strengths of all the different teachers. Everyone has a different strength, ability, talent to teach a different way. They have a different teaching style, just like the kids have different learning styles. So through PLC, we can farm those kids out to different teachers so that the students are more successful. So it's not about the teacher, it's about the students and their learning. And at Crockett, we've also added on to make it even more powerful. We have now layered leadership. We have the Wonder Lab to help those kids that already do know it, to those level 3 kids that are working on mastery or are already mastered what they're required to learn. They can go to the Wonder Lab and work on project-based learning. So we have that going. And we have, we have student-led conferencing that we have that's very powerful as well. The hybrid teacher coaching role, we goal set. The kids goal set and analyze their own data as well.
We do lots of goal setting. I mean, amongst our teams, amongst the campus, and individual students in their journals, they have their goals. Okay, I made a 40. What's your goal for the next test? And we try to keep it realistic. You know, a lot of them right away, they'll say, I want to make 100. Well, you made a 40, it's going to be a big stretch to make to 100. Let's try to keep it realistic. And they're very real with their goal setting. They'll say, okay, I'm not at 100 yet, so I'm going to go from a 40 to 60 and work my way up. And them marking their process and their progress and setting their own goals is very powerful with each student.
I'm a product of Goose Creek. I'm born and raised here, went through, my family was very mobile, so I've attended basically all of the old campuses, none of the new ones. And I take my job as an advocate for these kids really seriously. So when Dr. Duarte asked me what did I think about PLCs, I told her, you know, really I hadn't thought about how I use them because I just come to school to hang out with my 10-year-old best friends all day, and we kind of learn on accident. But the truth is those PLCs spill over into our classrooms. You know, it's taken this random group of teachers and we've grown them into leaders, not just leaders of their peers and of students, but now leaders in our community. So it kind of spills over into everything that we do. Amy talked about the layered leadership. That goes across all levels on our campus. We don't just PLC with 4th grade or with 3rd grade. We do vertical PLCs where I'm talking, you know, from K to 5 math, and we're all trying to get on the same page of where they're coming from, where they're going. The purpose, one of the questions is why do we do these professional learning communities? And it is to grow teachers, yes, but more than that, it's to grow our students. I mean, that's the purpose of everything that we do. All things education is to grow our students. So at Crockett, the students actually partake in PLCs in our classrooms. Many of you have been in my classroom to see the process and the stuff that they're doing. They have become part of this data tracking, the goal setting, the data tracking, the progress monitoring, and they're doing it for themselves, and they're encouraging their peers in class. You know, they want to make a goal, they want to get better. So we're not focusing on, can you do 100%? We're focusing on, did you grow some? Did you grow some? So when we start at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, we're pretty close to perfect. Like I said, PLCs aren't just growing teachers. It reinforces growth and learning among our students. The growth and learning part is an essential skill in life. At everything that you do, no matter what profession you choose, they're going to have that skill. PLCs, when done wholeheartedly and with a common goal, which is what we do, we sit down and we find that common goal. It takes professional learning from the classroom and it passes it on to this next generation of future community leaders. it's a cycle, because then in turn, when we are getting student feedback in their PLCs, then we now have more data to take back to our teacher PLCs, and we build from that. It's an ongoing process. It's one that's vital to both teachers and students, and it really has to be implemented at all levels of education. In other words, when executed with fidelity, PLCs reinforce learning across all content areas: ELA, math, science, social studies. And it reinforces the closing of that gap, and it reinforces 6 distinctions. So.
We heard a lot about what it is. I didn't hear what it's not. I didn't hear the word remediation. I didn't hear the word our commended students necessarily. What I heard more of was that it's a language, a common understanding that faculty members have, that, and the byproduct of that is student success.
Absolutely.
So it's more about how y'all work together is what I just heard in this presentation.
It's a way of life at Crockett.
It is.
I mean, it's just what we do.
I have a question. How often do you guys meet for PLCs?
Once a week at Crockett.
Once a week.
Once a week is scheduled, but there's actually, if something comes up, we'll get together, as needed.
At Lee High School, the EOCs meet every day to work, and it may be planning, looking at data, but we are working continuously every single day to make sure that we have the materials, that we're creating focus notes or quick writes or quizzes or common assessments, so that we are able to help our children grow.
Is that done during your common conference time?
The EOCs have a common conference time, a common PLC planning, and then we have a conference period for ourselves to take care of parent needs and those types of things that would be normally done during a conference period. But those PLC times are invaluable to us.
So how does that work? So you have PLC times like during one period and the conference during another?
Yes. For U.S. history, our PLC time is third period.
Okay. And is this at all 3 campuses? I guess, 5 campuses?
That I cannot tell you. I don't know how Sterling or GCM or Impact.
There are 3 traditional high schools.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. How do you handle the, you mentioned the PLC, I forgot the term you used, but basically all grade levels. Mm-hmm. It's not just vertical alignment. How do y'all handle that in your day? Because I have a wife who's on the elementary campus, and I know that when the kids go to specialties, that's when the teachers have their PLC time and their conference time. How do you handle the vertical?
When we're doing vertical, a lot of times that is when we have our, teacher staff development day is when we're getting with vertical, because then we're all there together.
The PLC days that are built into the calendar.
Yes.
A lot of time is devoted on those days.
But the thing is when you're doing PLC, because it is such a way of life for us, it's nothing for us to just get together really quick after school and discuss what it is, that we need to talk about.
It's very strategic. We don't go in there and talk about what my son is doing in baseball.
Right.
We go in there with a purpose, we take care of what we need, and then we disperse.
It's guided.
Yeah.
How often do you have an administrator sit in on your PLC time?
I always have somebody in my room. Like I said, many of you have been in mine throughout the year.
We usually have an informal PLC. Every Wednesday is a PLC day. 1 week might be an informal where you, with your team, you meet and you talk about the data. And then the next week it'll be a formal PLC whenever we meet with our administrator. And even on the informal PLCs, we have a little agenda. If you'll go to the next page, we have, maybe 12 pages. There's an agenda that one right there, that we fill out some of the purposes that we already know beforehand that we're going to talk about, some of the things that came up, and then we turn that in to our administrator, and she usually writes a couple of notes on there, some feedback on there, and gives it back to us.
Dr. Wood, how about at the high school level?
I know
it's 5 days a week, so I know you don't have an administrator every day.
Well, actually, we have an outstanding academic dean, and she comes in at least 3 times per week to sit down and with us and just listen and actually relax while she hears us and participates in how well we are working together. And I'm sure the administrators with the other teams also.
Yes, and we also have the agenda that we fill out. So if there's any questions to what went on during that PLC, they just take the notebook and flip through it, and they can see exactly what the discussion was and what we were focusing on.
Is a PLC, I'm sorry, Mr. Sherry.
That's fine.
Are the PLCs all subjects or just the core subjects meet every day?
The core subjects.
What about the electives?
There are PLCs for them. However, the EOC courses have been designated to have a common period each day.
Right.
The others, yes, they do have PLCs and they meet after school, before school, when they can, but then you're talking about coaches and trying to get them together in the same spot.
I meant like, for example, like Spanish, or I guess world languages. I know, for example, in social studies, there's classes that are considered electives, not.
Yes.
How often do they meet?
For example, the single type of class, you may have history through film, okay? They don't have a PLC because it's a single course. They would match into the world geography or the world history or the U.S. history or government eco.
Dr. Willett, I have Dr. Farnsworth here, so he can address how they do it with their singletons or their electives.
So in the master schedule, it's a lot more difficult with those elective courses. Foreign language,
fine arts,
CPE, fine arts. It's very, very difficult because a lot of those are the singletons. You have one teacher that teaches Spanish 1 and one teacher teaches Spanish 2. You only have like one teacher that does CTE. So the whole point of a PLC is to collaborate. And so we've invested our time in the areas that are tested and where graduation requirements are the highest, which is algebra, biology, U.S. history. We do talk to those other areas about PLCs and the framework, but it's not applicable in all those instances. If we could, I would. If I could schedule a common planning period for every single area, I would. It's not practical.
But we do our PLC days. Our fine arts director brings all of our fine arts together. Our CTE director brings all of our CTE together. So we do it, just not as common as the core.
Right, no, and I just thought about the fact that the league probably does have, just for example, one art teacher and one Spanish one teacher, but schools maybe like Sterling or GCM that are a little bit bigger, they have more than one of those, and I guess they're not here, but.
I think you just touched on our teacher work days, PLC days. That's one of our initiatives is, hey, fine arts, they all get together within the district. So all the fine arts teachers get together in the district in the afternoon. So we have staff meetings in the morning, and then in the afternoon, CTE teachers get together, fine arts teachers get together, foreign language teachers get together, and they work as, teachers from GCM, Sterling.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for the panel? Thank you very much.
Thank you for reporting on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
And I want to commend their faculty for staying and supporting this group of teachers.
One moment, please.
We now move to item 8, action items on our agenda. 8A is consideration to amend the Goose Creek dress code regarding piercings.
And Mr. Richard, the Director of Student Services, conducts a steering committee each year to edit the dress code, the handbook, the student handbook, faculty handbook. And at this year's steering committee, there was not compelling desire or request to make those edits. We brought forth to you the handbook in its original form. But since that time, you as a board, we as administrators have heard from our community and our constituents, our students, to make those requests. So we put them in the form of a vote for the board to consider edits.
I'd like to move for approval.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Laredo, a second from Ms. Woods. to approve the amendment to the dress code for piercings that you can find on page 31 of your board packet, if you're not there. Any discussion?
Is this secondary, or is this KC-12?
This is K through 12.
District-wide.
It's a district-wide rule. That's how it's always been stated, is district-wide.
Okay, so according to this, our first two young men that spoke tonight, the first one might be in dress code. We'd have to measure it and see. And the second one, who wore hoops, would not be. And neither of them bothered me.
I'm sorry, you're asking me a
Well,
personal
it's
question?
kind of a statement.
Oh.
Did anybody notice that?
I just saw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
My personal opinion is that I've seen students that have gauges that are up to 2 to 3 inches.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
I believe, in my opinion, I believe a gauge is distracting.
Yeah.
On any
but
student.
I was just speaking of the earrings that we saw tonight.
Okay, so you're not referring to
No,
the
I'm not
gauges.
really
I thought you were
referring to
talking
the
about
gauges.
the hoops.
He had.
So there was an attempt on student services to consider other handbooks and other dress codes. Survey was looked at, what others have done, and this is the concession that some school districts have made to allow for earrings, but to keep it at a modest rate. Not allowing, for example, a full carat diamond, because it goes beyond just a distraction to a danger, potential theft and things of that nature. So the concessions that have been made in this proposal were based upon other districts that have considered these edits.
So they were like, I don't know, I don't think you guys call them hoops. What do they call them? A little.
The pirate earring.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call
The
them.
pirate ring. I don't know why. I just
the
noticed
gauges
that.
are those things that
The ones that make it bigger, but something that's like a little loop.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that either. I don't see how that's.
I guess my statement was to point out that we saw two examples back to back tonight. The first one would be in dress code, and the second one wouldn't.
So,
the way this is written.
So for the benefit of the audience this evening, I'd like to read the dress code as it currently reads. Male students are not permitted to wear earrings or any other objects in the ear. The proposed edits include male students are permitted to wear one earring in each ear. Male earrings are limited to a stud-style earring no larger than 1/4 inch in diameter. Gauges will not be considered as acceptable jewelry worn on the ear. Female students shall be permitted to wear a single nostril piercing that must not distract or disrupt from the learning environment.
But with a hoop, that's not a stud. They're wearing a little hoop.
That was not included in the proposals we presented to you this evening. You as a board have the option to make edits to this proposal.
Can I rescind my motion? Was it seconded?
It was seconded. It was seconded.
Can we vote down this? Can you call for a vote, Mr. Richard, please?
We're still discussing right now. You can call for question, which would go to automatic vote.
I'd like to call a question.
Okay. All right. We will suspend discussion on this, and we will now act on the motion. The motion was to approve the jewelry portion of our district dress code as presented by administration. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All against? That motion will fail, 1 in the affirmative and 5 in the negative. Square one.
So we are discussing.
Right now, we have nothing. We have nothing now.
So you're looking for a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like for it to have that you can wear a hoop. I don't think that, I don't think the question of the gauges, the large gauges, I think that's a different issue altogether. But if a student wears a hoop, I don't see how that would be any different. I just made a motion right now. It didn't go too well, so I'm kind of scared to go out there now.
Yeah. Well, I haven't taken any motions at this point. I
So what you made was a comment. I didn't hear an official motion.
No, that was earlier, the other motion. Well, I'll make the motion now that we allow for a stud in hoops. Is that okay?
I'm afraid you're going to have to state it a little more formally for the record. I'm sorry. So I know exactly what kind of hoop I'm voting on.
I don't know what to call it.
If you have a comment, please turn your microphone on and make it so that we can all hear it. Are we calling?
No, my main concern is just elementary. I'm all for 6th grade plus. And the hoops are fine, just small hoops, not hanging down more than whatever you want to put, 1/4 inch. You want to keep it the same as the stud size, that's fine.
1/4 inch, I don't know if it would clear my lobe.
I mean, 1/4 inch below your lobe.
Oh,
Okay, so I have a question that's kind of around about this, Pete. This is the official student handbook, correct? But are campus principals allowed to impose additional on top of this, as in the past, when they could moderate the dress code for their specific campus?
I am not aware that any principals had that discretion to modify this dress code. There is a stipulation in our dress code that extracurricular activity sponsors can modify their dress requirements.
Okay, well, that was my question, because I know in the past, principals on campuses could modify the dress code that was put out by the district.
Again, I'm going to say, no ma'am, that has not been the policy in the past.
Yes, it was, because we were under dress code in Highlands while other elementaries across the district were not, and we were told that they were imposed by campus principals.
Was that the
and that
standardized dress code that the board approved?
No, you were only allowed to wear certain colors and certain solids.
That was the standardized dress codes. Each principal had to bring that to the board table to get the board to approve it for their campus.
Okay, so for their campus, they could have a modified.
The principals did, well, just to qualify, the principals did not make the change. The board approved the recommendation of the principal for each campus.
So is that still a possibility? Is that something still that campus principals could do? With us putting forward a dress code that is standardized for the district, could individual principals come and request a modified one for their campus?
I would probably go on record as not ever allowing that, because then you'll have chaos and you're going to have 42 different dress codes.
History.
No, I think that what you're saying is different than what
I'm
we
just
did when
asking
we
if
moved
that's
to
a
standardized
possibility.
dress.
I wasn't sure how that happened before, that some campuses had different dress codes than others.
They were approved by the board,
Okay.
one campus at a time, and then when it got to the board level later, to try to make it unified around the district, the board turned around and threw the whole, all standardized out, and went back just to the generic one. That was a board move also. So I guess to answer your question, could an individual campus principal come to you and say, hey, I'd like to allow gauges? Then the board would have to decide. But that campus couldn't say, we're going to allow gauges. They would have to come to the board and request a modification in the dress code for their campus.
Okay, or as in kind of the case Mr. Poppy presented, if a elementary campus principal wanted to restrict the wearing of earrings by male or any student, etc.
Not as presented.
I think, in my opinion, is what's wrong with a 3rd grader wearing a stud earring if we're going to let a high school do it?
I didn't say there was anything wrong with it. I just asked if they were able to do that. I mean, if they have in the past, so that's what I'm asking.
I think
that
in
would
the
have to be
past-
something that we would have to approve.
Yes.
That's all. That's really my question. All right.
But at this time, we don't have any motion on there yet. We just had a comment from a board member that his preference would be limited to 6th through 12th grade. Am I speaking out of turn?
No, I want to know if anybody else share that concern. If not, we'll move on. It's not the hill I'm going to die over.
Okay, I guess my question too about the way that this is written and the reason that we kind of voted it down is because I thought originally we were talking about, and this was presented, I guess, by administration based on researching other policies in other districts, but why is there a different set of rules for a male as opposed to female student? I mean, if you're going to let a female student wear a 3-inch hoop or a piercing in her nostril, Why are we not allowing male students to wear the same? Why are we?
You can't ask anyone. We don't have anyone at the table to ask. I know it looks like you're looking to somebody to ask. You're just making a
I'm
comment.
just speaking to the audience.
Well, I will address that.
For the camera.
If you research why school districts can have different codes within their individual school districts, the legality will always say that your community mores can lead your board to having restrictive or less restrictive rules.
Okay, so I guess really what my question was, and Mr. O'Brien answered it, and I guess I'm asking you to reiterate, this was brought to us based on other...
First and foremost, because the community asked for consideration.
But
And secondly,
this
yes.
particular wording was brought from others.
Considered from other
That's what I'm looking
proposals.
And by comments we made at the board table 2 weeks ago. Comments we made at the board table 2 weeks
Correct.
ago also.
That's correct.
I don't have a problem with either or with the elementary school kids. To be honest with you, I could see where maybe it would be a little bit more because of the whole recess issue, where it would be maybe a little bit different because unlike junior highs and high schools, they have recess every day and there's a lot of playground action. Because of a safety issue. That's the only reason I would oppose elementaries doing it, because I know my kid, well, all my kids, especially the boys, have been up and down and tumbled around and playing in recess when they were in elementary. That's the only reason I would hesitate to do elementaries. I don't have a problem with 6 through 12, and like I said before, I don't have a problem with it being a stud or a hoop that hangs no more than 1/4 inch off the lobe of the ear.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that we strike male students are not permitted to wear earrings or any other objects in the ear, and leave the rest of the policy as currently written. That's excluding the additional insert on male students and female students. So that it would read, jewelry accessories that are deemed noisy, distracting, or unsafe may not be worn. No student shall be permitted to wear objects in or on other exposed body parts, i.e. nose, eyebrows, lips, tongue, etc. No student shall be allowed to wear grills or any other unnecessary type of orthodontic advice.
Okay, so your motion is to strike bullets 2, 3, and 4? I mean, 2, 3, and 4?
Well, 3 and 4 don't technically exist in our handbook right now. So my motion is to strike bullet 2 and leave the rest as currently
then I would, okay. The motion's out, give my discussion after with this second. Do I hear a second?
Oh, second.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Woods, a second from Ms. Laredo, that we amend the jewelry policy, simply taking the 4 original bullets, you're disregarding the blue bullets that are in our board packet, and striking the second bullet. So we would have 3 bullets. First bullet saying jewelry accessories that are deemed noisy, distracting, or unsafe may not be worn. Second bullet, no student shall be permitted to wear objects in or on other exposed body parts, i.e., is nose still in there?
Well, it would be if you
What
exclude
I'm
the
saying
2
is if she wants to leave it as it is originally proposed.
Right.
I'm trying to clarify that. Okay, nose is in there. And 3, no student shall be allowed to wear grills or any other unnecessary type of orthodontic device. Okay? That is the motion in the second. Now we call for discussion. My question is, your second bullet now doesn't make sense because no student shall be permitted to wear objects in or on other exposed body parts. Nowhere do we now address ears at all in the new motion.
It doesn't, the gauges.
No, that's gone.
It doesn't address. So you're going to assume gauges are good.
The vernacular says no student shall be permitted to wear objects in or on other exposed body parts, such as nose, eyebrows, lips, tongue, etc. what is the acceptable one?
There's nothing that says we.
There's nothing in here that says what's acceptable to wear the jewelry.
So we just assumed females were allowed to wear earrings because it said males were not.
That's correct.
Okay.
This probably was written decades and decades ago.
Okay. Any other discussion?
If the rationale on the cover sheet, let me see if I can find it, is to increase instructional time by decreasing the amount of time spent on dress code, are we now creating just more things to look for instead of less?
Well, if we somehow blend into this policy that earrings are acceptable.
Well, the motion that we're discussing now.
The motion that we're discussing now, I don't think states that earrings are acceptable. And that's what I'm trying to point out. I don't think that's what we want to do.
It's just incredibly vague now.
Yeah. Correct. So just trying to point that out. So we do have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All opposed, please raise your right hand. That motion, that motion fails 6-0.
Okay, somebody help me.
I'm going to tell all my friends to watch this in 3 days.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Okay.
May I make a motion?
Yes.
Try.
Third time's a charm, they say, all right? So I'll make the motion. We accept the modifications as presented by the administration with the addition that hoop earrings may be worn as long as they do not, they can only, not greater, they don't go below the lobe ear by a quarter of an inch.
More than.
On all on male students.
Okay. So,
sorry.
That's okay. Your motion, but it has no second yet. So I'm going to ask you to consider just maybe changing the first blue bullet.
Well, I think that's what he was just saying.
He's right here.
Okay.
Right here.
So, yeah, restating.
It needs to be restated so that it's very clear what we're voting on. I think I know what everybody wants, but it has to be stated correctly for it to become votable.
Can you restate your motion then?
The motion is, as presented by administration, it's everything in blue, with the addition that hoop earrings may be worn by males, so long as they do not go below the earlobe by a quarter of an inch.
More than a quarter of an inch.
More than a quarter of an inch, sorry.
Okay, fine. I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Potter, a second from Ms. Woods, that we accept the administration's recommendation with the addition to the male student line that male earrings are limited to stud-style earrings no larger than 1/4 inch in diameter, or hoop earrings which do not, hoop earrings that are not longer than 1/4 inch below the earlobe.
I like that.
Second that motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Poppy, a second from Ms. Woods to pass the amended recommendation from administration. Any discussion?
Just for clarification, the size limitations are for male students.
And it's a continuation of the sentence that begins with males.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Are the gauges applicable to female students?
That's on next year's.
I don't think it says male or female. It just simply says gauges will not be considered as acceptable jewelry worn on the ear.
Okay, it's under the male students bullet.
So,
I can amend my motion, can I? Or,
It's already been seconded.
it's been seconded, but
Right.
in further discussion,
Bring it to
further
us at a
discussion, I
combination.
think we could act on this one, and if it doesn't pass, we could then make the gauges one a separate bullet.
See what you started, Jordan?
All right, we got it.
You guys need to present a motion.
No. You can't do it, Jordan. Okay? All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table. And as it stands, the gauge rule will only apply to males. So, all in favor of that motion, please raise your right hand. All against, please raise your right hand. That motion fails also by a vote of 5-1. Okay?
All right, I will make one more motion.
Good.
I'll make the same motion that we just had.
No, it has to be specific.
With the exception that after the male student's bullet, when you get to the second sentence, gauges will become its own bullet, and gauges will not be considered acceptable jewelry worn on the ear for both male and female.
Second.
All right, we have a new motion from Mr. Poppy, a second from Mr. Laredo, to take the recommendation from administration separating the gauges into its own bullet to read gauges will not be considered as acceptable jewelry worn on the ear by either male or female students, and with the change to the bullet for males to include the wording or hoop earrings that are no longer than 1/4 inch below the earlobe. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. That motion carries 6-0.
The second consideration to amend the GCCISD dress code was for facial hair. In the proposal currently reads the current policy reads no other facial hair will be allowed beyond mustaches, worn neatly trimmed, and sideburns neatly trimmed, not to extend past the earlobe. The recommended proposal is to strike no other facial hair will be allowed and include the term facial hair will be allowed but must be clean and well groomed and styled in a way that is not disruptive to the education process or not distracting. Not distracting.
Thank you. Let's read it the way it's going to be.
Move for approval.
Wait. Okay. I have a motion.
Before it's seconded, I have a question. So
Yes.
should I choose to shave off my goatee, my mustache has to stop here, still.
According to you're putting yourself in, if you shave
Well,
your goatee,
if
yes,
this
it's
is
gotta
at
stop
least I
at
have
your
a visual.
Well, it says it's facial hair, and as long as it's trimmed, it can go lower than that.
But do we need that first bullet?
No,
The first bullet.
I beg to disagree there. It says may not extend past the corners of the mouth, the way it reads now.
So if I'm wearing just
That's what's in there now, sir. And he's asking a question based on the current rule. Would he have to stop his mustache here? Because that is the corners of his mouth.
So I couldn't do my
Can I-
handlebar,
Well, since it hasn't been seconded, I'd like to amend my motion.
It hasn't been seconded. That's fine.
That we strike out the first bullet. And let's go for the second one as well. Just leave that third bullet, that proposed.
Okay, so we have a motion that says that mustache and beard will read simply, facial hair will be allowed but must be neat, must be clean and well groomed and styled in a way that is not distracting. That's your motion, correct?
Yes.
second.
We have a motion from Mr. Laredo, a second from Mr. Clem, that we change the mustache beards dress code to read simply, facial hair will be allowed but must be clean and well groomed and styled in a way that is not distracting. Any discussion? I have discussion I'd like to start. I will say that I do not feel that a beard, a goatee, long mutton chops, whatever on a high school male student is non-distracting. That's a personal opinion. And I also feel that our students, once they get into the workforce, particularly some of our plant jobs, they will not be allowed to wear that type of facial hair on their job for safety reasons.
And they won't be allowed to wear their earrings on the same job either.
That's correct also.
But then we're showing, that's if they choose that kind of job, because I work at a job that allows me to have neatly trimmed facial hair. I mean, I think that becomes an individual's choice of where they choose to work.
And again, as I pointed out earlier, the dress codes are based on the prevailing sentiments of the community. Okay. And I don't think that any of those students before tonight came forward and said they wanted to be able to wear beards. They were talking about single earrings when they came forward to us before tonight. That was only what came forward before tonight, and I think it was a board-generated question to please bring back a mustache beards to allow facial hair. I'm just pointing that out at this point.
And a lot of that was because, in speaking to administrators in our district, that when we've talked about the earring thing, that's the second thing that comes right up, is that
3 high school principals.
They have to go to
versions of
So what's going to be next? Holes in jeans? Frayed clothes? What's going to be next that we're going to throw the dress code out because it disturbs a few of the students? That's just not feeling on the facial hair. Okay? I've said my point. Any other discussion? Okay. Call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All opposed? The motion will carry 5 in the affirmative with 1 against. Okay. Moving on to 8C, consent agenda.
For consent agenda this evening, number 1, application for an optional flexible school day program for the Peter E. Highland Center, Impact Early College High School, and Stuart Career Tech Early College High School. Number 2, Instructional Leadership Council, ILC End of Year Report. Number 3, Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System, T-Test for the 2017-18 school year. Number 4, Class Size Waiver. Number 5, Award of CSP for Fine Arts Equipment, Supplies, and Related Services. Number 6, Property Tax Foreclosure Resales. Administration recommends approval.
Would anybody like any of those 6 items to be pulled for individual consideration?
Number 2 and number 4, please.
Can I ask just a question on the fine arts equipment, supplies, and related services? Does that include equipment repairs, or is that a separate bid?
I'll have to look at the backup on that.
If it includes repairs, there are some holes in that bid. If it's just for equipment and supplies, it's
Responding vendors who provide district with various fine arts equipment, supplies, and related services.
No repairs. So repairs is a separate bid. Where I'm heading with this is the most widely used violin repair shop is not on the list. And
So we sent out invitations to 36, 35 responded.
Okay.
So I couldn't tell you which one did not respond because they're not on the list.
It says it up there who did not. I just don't want to leave the orchestra folks out if that needs to be in there.
They may be on a purchasing co-op.
Oh, I bet you they are. They are. Like my board, that kind of stuff. They are. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is it okay to leave that one in there, Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Okay. Seek a motion. 1, 3, 5, and 6.
Move to approve.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Each to it, Mr. Moreno. We have a motion for Mr. Clem, a second for Mr. Van Hoppe to approve consent agenda items C1, 3, 5, and 6. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Right hand. That motion carries 6-0 with 1 absent. Okay. Number 2, Instructional Leadership Council End of Year Report. Ms. Woods.
I just had a couple little questions about it. I know that the report included in our packet was the membership and the meeting schedule, but I just saw the meeting schedule. I didn't see any membership information in that. And then as an end-of-year report, were there more details? Did this get sent on a separate email? Because there's a list of some agenda items here, but like I said, there's no membership, there's just a meeting schedule. And some items that were discussed.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the membership report was, but that was included, and our membership included a representative teacher from every single campus. We have an elementary, secondary principal, a counselor rep, librarian rep. We have parent community reps on the ILC from last year, and that is something that we can forward to each of you.
Okay, and then, so this end of year report is basically just that. There's no details on the agenda items or anything like that?
No, then all we do is kind of give you an idea of some of the items that we discussed throughout the year, and we try and pick some of the larger topics that the committee worked on.
But for example, you may have witnessed some of these items, such as district innovation, came to fruition in a report to the board through the superintendent's report. Some of the items you would have seen throughout the year.
Right. Okay. That's all I wanted to know about that one. I don't know if you want to stay there
We
for the
need
next
to act
one.
on it because we have to act on it
Okay.
separately. Seek a motion on C2. I'm sorry, C2.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Clem, a second from Mr. Peapoppy to approve item 8C2, Instructional Leadership Council End of Year Report. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 5 in the affirmative, 1 opposed.
That was approval. No, I didn't oppose. I'm sorry.
Okay, motion carries 6
I was
in the
scrolling through my
approval.
next question.
1 absent. A delayed approval.
A delayed approval. I approve.
Class size waiver, okay, Mr. Woods.
Okay, and so my question on this was, I wasn't sure what I was looking at here. I know that, so this is an application for us to get a waiver from the state to have more than the 22 to 1 in the K through 4 section?
For the sections where we already have over 22 students, yes, that since we, if the board approved, then we'll send an application to the state.
Okay, well, and then I noticed here that there were some things that were already done to try and alleviate that, post-hurricane, reassigning some teachers, directing some new students around. I just, if we receive a waiver for this, then what are we talking about? Because I couldn't understand, we have 12 campuses that are impacted with more than 22 to 1
In some grade levels.
in some rooms. Sections impacted were 52.
52 homerooms. There's 52 homerooms across those 12 campuses.
Across 12 campuses, and that's 73, for a total of 73 students?
73 students over the capacity that we should have. I don't remember the exact number, and I apologize for that.
More than half were one
Yeah.
student, and almost half was 2 students.
Yeah, I think I saw 23 and 24
Right.
in some of the rooms. And so I'm sure you guys looked at those particular campuses, and there was no way to redo that. And that's after you reassigned the 9 teachers and redirected new students. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so we still have 19 classes at 24 and 32 at 23.
And this is partly because we don't like to move kids after a year and start it just to balance a class, because they already have the T-shirt, they know their teacher. It's hard to say, sorry, you were last, so you've been here 3 weeks, but now it's time for you to go somewhere else. So we apply for the waiver. With these campuses, we have stopped enrollment in those classes already. So even with the waiver, we would continue to add. It's just we need the waiver because they're already over.
Because they're already over. Okay, so I guess what I couldn't see on here, and I may have just read over it or read past it, what was the reason that we gave TEA? I know it said that we could, there were several different reasons that we could ask for the waiver, some being shortage of facilities, shortage of teachers, financial hardship, etc. Or if we were asking based on excess unanticipated enrollment growth. Did we use both of those sets?
When I sit and do the waiver, I actually do it individually for each campus, and so each campus is possibly going to have a different reason. Because for some campuses, they don't have space to add an additional teacher, or
but it
they
would obviously fall under any of those. Okay, so different campuses have actual different reasons, and you have to apply for each campus for the waiver. You can't just okay.
That's all I wanted to know.
And the waiver lasts this school year?
Yes, for the whole school year.
What if there's a dramatic change for some other catastrophic reason during the year?
If another campus got really large,
yeah,
we would come back to you and do the same thing. I mean, knock on wood that we haven't had that issue in any other years.
Several years.
Yeah, we would go through the same process at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
No, I move that we approve the class size waiver request.
Second.
A motion from Ms. Woods, a second from Mr. Clem to approve 8C4 class size waiver. Any discussion? All in favor, please. Oh.
This wouldn't be necessary if we were a district of innovation, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 6 in the affirmative with 1 absent.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. 8D, future board agenda items, board trainings, board meetings. Any future board agenda items? Any board member that you would like to see placed on a future agenda?
I'd like to, I know we had a presentation on POCs today, and I mean, it was good. I'd like to know what else we're doing, especially and we saw a report a few weeks ago in regards to diversity and our scores broken down by ethnicity. I'd like to see some of the staff development that's being created for that. I think POCs may even create an opportunity for those kinds. That's one thing, Mr. Richard, and I'd like to see that at the board table. The other thing is, and
That's a report though, right, Mr. Rita?
Yes.
A report, okay.
Also, I'd like to see an update. I know the iPads, you said y'all were being reprogrammed or whatever, but we're halfway through the semester. And I know at least my kids, we have computer stuff at home, but my kids, they worked a lot, and it's kind of weird that Marvin Lee High School is an Apple distinguished school, but they got no apples to work with. So I'd like to have an update of when we're going to get those in the classrooms to the kids in hands.
I think clearly it was impacted by the hurricane, but
I understand that.
Yeah.
We've taken care of other problems though because of the hurricane. We had a presentation today when we're working with facilities, and like I said, I know that some of it. I don't want to think it's insurance issues because we've fronted the money for other things, and I know that Mr. Foden, if that's the issue, I don't think it's the issue. Correct?
You will be. Yes.
But you can do it in a presentation.
Well, I guess the insurance, the company, the Electrostar that you saw earlier, they're finishing up this week on the iPads. We sent out emails to the campuses last week scheduling their days of when they're getting them. So the week of the 6th is like Cedar, Highland, Impact, Spirit Career. The week after that is the other large high schools. So the 14th, 15th, 16th, I think.
And do we have computers, enough computers for the kids to work on their assignments on Highland? Because I know at the beginning last year, and I'm afraid that this year they were working on cell phones, and it's a little hard when you're trying to earn credit to work on a cell phone.
We added 3 student computers to every classroom at Cedar, Highland last year.
But is that enough to cover every kid?
Plus their iPad. Plus with their iPads, and yes.
Right, but they don't have the iPad yet.
Correct.
And they've gone almost half a semester without their iPad, and I just want to make sure that they, I mean, I don't know, I know they're wired better than I am. They can, but to do your stuff that's for credit on the phone.
You would be close. That campus has more of a 1-to-1 or higher ratio than any other campus. But I can pull the numbers and send you just what their enrollment is and what how many computers they have outside of the iPads.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on future board agenda items? Okay. Board trainings, like to remind everybody that we have a workshop at 6:30 a week from tonight. Does anybody else have a future board training you would like to see us discuss? Okay. A clarifying question, yes.
When does the hearing policy become effective?
Immediately.
tomorrow, right? School.
We just approved it.
I just want to make sure.
We will clearly have to disseminate that information to the campus.
Oh, I'm sure it's already disseminated.
Back to disseminating right now.
I think before our hands went down, it was like gone.
Future board meeting. Any changes to our board meeting schedule that was sent out last week? Okay. Normally, at this time, we would be going to the closed meeting. However, I was just slipped a note from our board attorney. We do have on our agenda tonight, item H, a level 3 grievance appeal. The legal counsel for that appeal, the employee's legal counsel, has a 10:45 departure flight and is requesting that we move up the item from H to E, or in front of E. Is there any objection from any board members?
Do you need a motion for that?
I don't think so. I think we can just change the order as long as we don't.
Let's move to H.
We're not adding anything to the agenda. We're just changing the order. Okay. So what we will do now is move item H up, and we will have a consideration of a hearing of level 3 grievance, appeal of an employee, Dr. Kathleen Berry Hebert. Would Dr. Hebert, her counsel, please come forward? Would our counsel please come forward, take seats at the table, and I will then begin the proceedings.
I've got it.
Before we begin, the board will recess into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, and that is, get the right here.
Last one, number 4.
No, that's not the last one on the list, sir. 551071, private consultation with the attorney, the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. And no action will be taken while the board is in closed session. The board was in closed meeting. We will now consider a level 3 grievance appeal of Kathleen Berry Hebert, a district employee. Dr. Berry Hebert has requested that the hearing be held in open session. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you. If the board determines that the issues raised involve complaint against the district employee or related confidential personnel matters, the board will move into closed session to hear the grievance appeal. Following the grievance presentation, the board will also go into closed session to deliberate and consult with legal counsel. We will now consider Dr. Berry Hebert's appeal of the administration's level 2 decision and dismissal of portions of her grievance as untimely. We will consider whether the administration's level 2 decision should be upheld. For the record, my name is Al Richard, and I am the Goose Creek CISD Board President. A quorum is present, and the following board members are in attendance. They are Mr. Richard Clem, Mr. Ben Poppy, Mr. Pete Poppy, Mr. Augustin Laredo, and Ms. Jessica Woods. I will ask each board member whether he or she is able to serve as an impartial member of this hearing body and arrive at a decision based solely upon the presentations at this meeting. Any member not able to act in such a manner may say so and ask to be excused. Mr. Clem. I am. Mr. Ben Poppy.
I am.
Mr. Pete Poppy.
I am as well.
I am also. Mr. Laredo.
I am.
And Ms. Woods.
I am.
Thank you. It is October 23, 2017. It is now 9:09 p.m. A record is being made of these proceedings. In order to provide the most accurate record possible, an audio recording of the proceedings is being made. Please avoid talking when others are speaking so that the record will reflect the proceedings accurately. As part of the record of this level 3 grievance, the superintendent has supplied each board member with copies of the grievance documents and the relevant district policies and related records. Dr. Barry Hebert is present for this level 3 grievance proceeding and has a representative with her. Would you please identify yourself for the record? Thank you.
John McCormick, attorney, I represent.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Eloy Chapa, and Legal Counsel Carlos Schultz are presenting on behalf of the administration. Will you please introduce yourself for the record?
I am Eloy Chapa, the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources here in Goose Creek.
Carlos Schultz, law firm representing Goose Creek CISD.
Thank you. This grievance hearing will be conducted in accordance with the district's policy governing employee complaints, DGBA Local. The order of this proceeding will be as follows. As the presiding officer, I am imposing reasonable time limit of 20 minutes each for Dr. Barry Hebert and the administration to make their presentations, which may include references to any documents in the local record provided to the board. I am asking Mr. Laredo to be the timekeeper. First, Dr. Barry Hebert and her representative will present her level 3 appeal. When she has completed her presentation, I will allow the administration to give the administration's response. If requested, I will allow that Dr. Barry Hebert to make a 1-minute follow-up statement in reply to the administration's response, and I will also allow the administration to make a 1-minute statement in reply to the employee's follow-up statement. This is a grievance presentation and not a formal evidentiary hearing. There will be no testimony by or questioning of witnesses. At the end of all presentations, board members may ask clarifying questions of the parties in order to aid their understanding of the grievance or the administrative response. However, the parties will not question one another directly. If any board members have questions, I request that they refrain from interrupting or asking questions until I call for questions so that we can maintain an accurate record of the time used by each party. Are there any questions regarding these procedures?
Yes, Mr. President, one question I have. Since Dr. Hebert has requested that this be an open session, an open meeting, it's my understanding that any deliberation that the board does must also be done in open session. The only thing you can retire to closed session for would be to seek legal advice from your counsel. But any deliberation, because she's chosen to have it in open session, must be done in open session as well. I just wanted to get clarification on that.
What is your response to that, Ms. Works?
The administration doesn't have any objection to that matter unless other employees' personnel information were to come up or student information were to come up. Obviously, the board can go into closed session deliberations for consulting with legal counsel, but if the employee wants deliberations in open session, then that's the board's choice.
Thank you. Dr. Barry Hebert, you may now proceed with your grievance presentation, 9:13 p.m.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, good evening. My name is John McCormick. Let me first thank you for accommodating my travel schedule. I'll try to give some time back to you. This is not a complicated grievance at all. It only involves really two issues. But the overarching issue in each of them is this is a grievance about promises that were made and promises that were not kept. Dr. Barry Hebert has been an employee of this district for 2 years, for the last 2 school years, as a licensed specialist in school psychology, LSSP, and upon her hiring was told by an administrator that when Dr. Hebert completed her doctorate, she would receive a signing bonus or bonus of $500 and also an increase in her salary of $5,000. In October 2016, Dr. Barry Hebert completed the work and was awarded her doctorate contacted the Human Resources Department and was told in no uncertain terms that the stipend or the $500 was really only for teachers who achieved or who earned a doctorate, but it was not for administrators. Ann was told basically if she had any additional questions about that, she needed to contact Mr. Chopper. In April of 2017, she did just that, sent him an email saying basically, and you see it in the grievance, I'm not going to name names, but you see who represented to her that she would be given the increase in compensation and the bonus or the stipend for having completed her doctorate. Mr. Chopper told her basically that the stipend was really only for teachers who earned doctorates but not administrators. Didn't really deal with the raise that she was promised. As is her right under your policy, she exercised that right and filed a grievance over both issues, the stipend and the increase in compensation. After level one, the level one hearing officer determined that Dr. Abair's grievance over the stipend was untimely because he determined that she knew or should have known that she was not entitled to that stipend until when another employee sent an email saying basically that is only reserved for teachers. The problem, members of the board, and we anticipate that the administration will say that Dr. Abair's grievance with respect to the stipend is not timely. However, that is erroneous. Actually, Dr. Abair's grievance was timely on both issues. Here's why. When you go back, and I trust that you've had an opportunity to review the exhibits that are there, you'll notice that the employee who informed Dr. Abair that the stipend was only for teachers told her to follow up with Mr. Chopper. That's exactly what she did. She didn't say you needed to follow up with Mr. Chopper by a certain time. She simply said follow up with Mr. Chopper. Dr. Abair did that. She did it in April. Members of the board, what's clear is the decision on whether or not she's entitled to the stipend did not become final until she received an email from Mr. Chopper dated April 5th, 2017. That's key. After that, Dr. Abair exercised her right, as is her right under the grievance policy, to file and challenge that particular decision. Again, we believe because the decision was not final until her receipt of that April 5th email from Mr. Chopper, that her grievance was timely. Furthermore, if you'll look at our exhibits, exhibit number 14 to be exact, you'll see an email from Mr. Chopper to another employee in the district who basically reiterates what the practice is. And the reason I cite that is because it's very clear that Mr. Chopper himself had to seek additional information or advice on the issue before rendering a final decision. So clearly, if you look at the timeline, when Dr. Abair was informed in October, she was told to contact Mr. Chopper. She did so in April. Up until that time, no final decision on the stipend had been made. As a result, Dr. Abair's grievance was timely. Here's the other interesting matter that I think is key here. The administration says that the stipend is only for teachers and not administrators. And when they transition, if teachers, for instance, transition over to administrators in the district, they lose the ability to have the stipend. The interesting thing, members of the board, about that position is there's no documentation in the record that backs that up. Your policy simply says you as a board decide who gets stipends and who doesn't. There's no documentation that's been afforded to us that indicates or codifies, if you will, the practice of only giving the $500 stipend to teachers. It's simply, well, that's how we do it in the district. The problem with that is you can't conduct business that way. You've got to have some standardized procedures. I would invite you, when the administration gets its turn to visit with you, for them to point out to you where in your policy
where in any kind of handbook does it specifically state that only teachers who receive their doctorates are entitled to the $500 stipend. The other issue that you're going to hear is, well, none of this is in writing. The person who purportedly made these representations to Dr. Hebert is no longer with the district, and there was nothing in writing from that person that even suggested that was extended. Members of the board, what I'll simply say to you is Dr. Hebert would not risk her reputation before you and before any employees if she were not told, if she were not given those promises. You earn your doctorate, you get a $500 stipend, and you get a bump in salary. The administration will say the district has its salary schedule. You as a board set the salary schedule, and so we don't have, the administration basically saying, we don't have the authority to give her an additional $5,000 because it's not set in the schedule. I would simply respond to that by saying, why was it told to her that she would get it? At least one member of your administration at least thought that they could do that. Dr. Hebert relied on that and ultimately decided to seek employment here. As I indicated to you earlier, this grievance is really about word and what one's word means. And in this context, Dr. Hebert was told, you earn your doctorate, you get these incentives. When she earns her doctorate, then she's told, no, you don't get them. And furthermore, when you try to challenge and exercise your right through the grievance policy to get them, we're going to make sure that the stipend issue doesn't go because it wasn't timely. We've provided for you the reason why it is timely. And Mr. Chopper's email to the other employee is the best evidence. Because if it weren't, why would he have to go and find out what the answer was? So clearly there was still an open question as to whether or not she was entitled to that. You see the documentation, you know the type of work she does. I'm not going to go through each and every aspect or each and every exhibit. I'm only going to point out to you what I think are the highlights here and the pertinent parts of this. What she's asking you to do is what the administration would not do, and that's keep the word of the person who made representations to her when he hired her. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chopper, Ms. Schultz, your 20 minutes will begin now.
Good evening, trustees. As you know, I am Eloy Chapa, the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and I will be presenting on behalf of administration. I served as the superintendent's designee to hear and respond to Dr. Hebert's Level 2 grievance appeal. As you have heard, and it is reflected in Exhibit 4 of the record provided to the board, Dr. Hebert's grievance stems from her claim that when she was hired in 2015, Dr. Tom Kelchner, who was then the Director of Special Education, told her that she would be paid a $500 stipend and would receive a salary increase of $5,000 annually when she earned her doctoral degree. Dr. Hebert worked as an LSSP for Goose Creek CISD, and under the board's employee compensation plan, such stipends are not available to LSSPs who are classified as administrative/professionals. The salary schedules are the first 2 pages of Exhibit 11. Also, such salary increases are not available to any other employee. In addition, Dr. Hebert has provided no documentation to support her claim that she was promised this money by the former district administrator. For these reasons, her request to be paid additional salary was denied. The issue in this appeal is whether the administration's response to Dr. Hebert's complaint was the proper one. It is the position of the administration that Dr. Hebert's grievance has been properly reviewed and responded to. Therefore, we believe the Level 2 grievance response, which is in Exhibit 9, should be upheld. To aid the board in reaching a decision, I I will describe the facts of this complaint. On October 28, 2016, Dr. Hebert emailed Renee Napier in the Human Resources Office and inquired about payment of a stipend for a completed doctorate degree. That same day, Mrs. Napier replied to her via email and correctly informed her that as an LSSP, she was not eligible for such a stipend because it is only available for teachers. When Dr. Hebert then asked about the district's procedure for a pay increase/salary, Mrs. Napier suggested Dr. Hebert contact me or review the employee handbook. She did not contact me about this issue until April 4th, 2017, almost 6 months later. Those emails are in pages 128 through 134 at Exhibit 11. When she contacted me in April, Dr. Hebert asked me the nearly identical question as she asked Mrs. Napier months earlier, and I provided the nearly identical answer that she was not eligible for any additional salary or stipend. On April 21st, 2017, Dr. Hebert filed a grievance in which she claimed that when she was hired approximately 2 years ago, the former director of special education, Dr. Thomas Kelchner, informed her that upon completion of her doctorate degree, she would receive a raise of $5,000 and a stipend of $500. Dr. Ron White heard that complaint and dismissed Dr. Hebert's grievance as untimely after determining that Dr. Hebert was aware and she would not receive such a stipend or salary increase 6 months earlier in October of 2016 when she received that information from Ms. Napier. As the board is aware and is described in Board Policy DGBA Local, which is at Exhibit 2, in order to be timely, a grievance must be filed within 15 days of the date the employee first knew or with reasonable diligence should have known of the decision or action giving rise to the grievance or complaint. When Dr. Hebert appealed the dismissal of her complaint, Dr. Wyatt upheld the dismissal of the stipend portion of the grievance, determining that it was untimely. He then considered Dr. Hebert's complaint that she was entitled to additional salary as well. Ultimately, Dr. Wyatt denied the remedy that Dr. Hebert requested, and she appealed. After I heard Dr. Hebert's appeal at grievance level 2 and reviewed all of the available information, I agreed that the portion of the grievance about the stipend was untimely and should be dismissed. I also agreed that even if her complaint was timely, Dr. Hebert was not entitled to any additional compensation, whether in salary or a stipend, for earning a doctoral degree, as such additional pay was neither in her hiring documents nor in the district's compensation plan. I have made my decisions based on the following information. The board's employee compensation plan only authorizes payment of a $500 stipend for a teacher who earns their PhD while employed for the district, and only eligible teachers receive such a stipend. The compensation plan does not provide for any additional salary for any employee who earns a PhD, and no Goose Creek CISD employee has been paid such additional salary for obtaining a doctoral degree. The employment offer and hiring documents related to Dr. Hebert do not show any promise of a stipend or additional pay upon completion of a PhD. Those are found on Exhibit 11, pages 125 through 127. Dr. Hebert provides no documentation to support her claim that Dr. Kelchner promised her such increased compensation. Dr. Kelchner would not have been entitled to obligate the district to pay the employee more than the compensation in the district's compensation plan. I also contacted Dr. Kelchner, who has left this position in Goose Creek CISD, and he states that he never promised such payment of stipend or salary to Dr. Hebert. Goose Creek CISD Board Policy DEA Legal, which is at Exhibit 3, states that in accordance with state law, the district may not grant any extra compensation, fee, or allowance to a public officer, agent, servant, or contractor after services have been rendered or a contract entered into and performed in whole or in part. Dr. Hebert entered into a contract with Goose Creek CISD on August the 10th, 2015, and again on May 9th, 2016. Those contracts plainly state that she will be paid in accordance with the district's salary plan, and she was properly paid under that plan. To pay her additional public monies to which she is not entitled would be an unconstitutional gift of public funds. With respect to Dr. Hebert's claim that she felt she was doing more work and receiving less pay than she expected when hired, I found that Dr. Hebert is one of the highest paid LSSPs in the district, despite having the second fewest years of experience at Goose Creek CISD and in the public schools. Also, with the superintendent's approval, I offered her the option of being released from her contract so that she could obtain other employment if that was her preference. In conclusion, Dr. Hebert has stated that it is arbitrary and capricious to pay stipends to teachers who earned a PhD but to deny her such compensation. The administration disagrees. Rather, it would be arbitrary and capricious to pay Dr. Hebert more than the 14 other district administrators and professionals who are on her same salary schedule or who have earned their doctorates while employed here. None of those employees received or have been paid any type of stipend or increase in salary for earning their doctoral degrees. One of those individuals is another LSSP like Dr. Hebert. District policy states that it is the superintendent's responsibility to implement the board's compensation plan and establish procedures for plan administration consistent with the budget. That is what the administration has done with respect to this grievance. For these and the reasons stated above, the administration respectfully requests that the board uphold the administration's level 2 decision, which is a proper and appropriate response to Dr. Hebert's complaint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chopper. Mr. McCormick, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal.
Okay. First, with respect to the issue of timeliness, again, look at exhibits 14 and 15, more specifically, look at the timestamps. Mr. Chopper, check with Ms. Napier first before giving the April 5, 2017 email to Dr. Hebert. If he knew the answer and it was final, why did he have to check and get confirmation? That in and of itself indicates that there was still some uncertainty. The grievance policy says when you knew or should have known. In this context, it would have been when the issue became final. It became final on April 5th. The other thing that the administration says is, well, if you give her $5,000, then it violates the policy and then also they argue that no other LSSP really is making that kind of money. The problem with that line of thought is this. Number one, the $5,000 increase, if you look at Dr. Hebert's current salary, is still within the salary range.
That's your time, Dr. Berry.
May I have 30 seconds to sum up, Mr. President?
Yes.
It's still within the salary range. Again, this grievance goes back to, will you keep your word? Dr. Hebert relied on the representations that were made to her in deciding to come and work here. We're asking that you uphold the word that the administration failed to uphold. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebuttal from the
Thank you.
administration.
The administration's position that the administration has kept its word. The administration has kept its word to all of its employees. The board passed and approved a compensation plan. The administration administered that plan in compliance. Dr. Hebert says that there is evidence of promises broken. There is no evidence of promises broken. Rather, all the evidence supports that the administration has properly handled this matter with respect to the stipend and with respect to the salary. She's provided not one single piece of evidence that she's ever been promised this additional compensation or that she's entitled to it in any way. All the evidence supports otherwise. This is just setting aside the issue of timeliness and untimeliness. Even if it were timely, Dr. Hebert is not entitled to this additional compensation that she seeks, neither in any paper nor in any other evidence that's been provided tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any clarifying questions from any members of the board at this time? Hearing none, this level 3 grievance appeal is now concluded. I will now review the board's process for reaching a decision in this case. Having heard the level 3 presentations, the board has several options. Those options may be exercised tonight or at any time prior to the end of the next board meeting. Option 1, the board may deny the appeal and uphold the administration's level 2 decision, including the dismissal of portions of the grievance as untimely. Option 2, the board may grant Dr. Barry Hebert's appeal and provide some or all of the remedies requested, or grant another remedy as the board considers appropriate. Option 3, the board may take no action by the end of the next board meeting, which will result in the administration's decision being upheld. In making its decision, the board will consider only the grievance presentation and administrative response presented at this meeting, as well as the documents contained in the record. We will not consider any statement, rumor, or other information that we may have heard outside of this meeting room. Okay. We will now, is there anyone on the board feel that we need to go into closed session to consult our legal counsel with any questions? Hearing none, we will remain in open session, and I will entertain a motion from a board member.
My apologies, but I think I would like to go to closed session and see if can we do that? I know I missed a chance. Can I? To talk legally, I have a procedural question, specifically on the attorney, not
the merits.
No, not the merits, not the merits.
We have a request from Mr. Pete Poppy to go into closed session to discuss a procedural question that he has with our legal counsel. It is 9:37. No other discussions will take place while we're in that closed session. Closed session, no deliberations took place, and our legal counsel answered the procedural question that one board member had for him. Okay. Once again, board, we have three options in front of us this evening. Option 1, deny the appeal and uphold the level 2 decision, including dismissal of portions of the grievance as untimely. 2, grant Dr. Hebert's appeal and provide some or all of the remedies requested, or grant another remedy as the board considers appropriate. 3, take no action by the end of the next board meeting, which would result in the administration's decision as being upheld.
Time for ask questions or just for motions?
What's that? We had our time for questions. Okay. Clarifying questions? Yes. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but not, I guess.
I've concluded the grievance, so we can't have clarifying questions. I hear no motion from any board member at this time. We've had considerable time to have a motion come forward. So at this point, no action will be taken at this meeting regarding this grievance. It is now 9:47 p.m. Thank you to all parties involved.
to our agenda.
Thank you, ma'am.
We will now recess into closed meeting. Closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act, Governmental Code 551071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551087. No action will be taken while the board is in closed session. It is 9:48.
The administration would recommend at this time that the board accept the election of Suman Sharma as a teacher assigned to Ashbel Smith Elementary School and accept the resignations as presented.
Motion for Mr. Peacock, a second for Mr. Clem, to approve the appointment of one teacher and accept the resignation of 3 teachers as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Having no other business on our agenda, I will seek a motion to adjourn. Motion from Mr. Laredo, second from Mr. Clem. All in favor, raise your right hand. We are adjourned at 10:49.
That's a new record for the new school year.